Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Her Talk Show. My name is Sabrina Victoria, and I am here with Rachel Blogg. We're going to be talking
Hello.
all about how to eliminate fear. I am so excited for this conversation because stepping into fear is incredibly important. Get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide. We're going to be offering insights and inspiration to fuel your personal and your professional growth. So let's jump in, lady. All right. If you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day, delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We have interviewed over 800 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Miss Rachel Blogg with us today. She is a licensed psychotherapist, DBT therapist, performance coach, and podcast host with nearly 30 years of experience working with both athletes and high performers. What makes Rachel's perspective different is that she doesn't just talk about fear, she lived through the kind of decisions where fear could have easily taken over. Instead of letting it stop her, she learned how to move with it, not against it. I love that. Today we're getting into what it actually looks like, how fear shows up in big decisions and why it keeps people stuck, and how to move forward without waiting to feel ready. Girl, I love
Hi.
all of this. I'm so
Hello.
excited to talk about this. Should we
I'm
just
so
talk about
excited.
the elephant in the room right away?
Sure.
So I right before we jumped on live, to for those of you that are joining us live, by the way, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. We love to see the people coming on live. Right before we jumped on, I told Rachel that the podcast that I run right now on StreamYard just launched a new feature where they have a teleprompter that actually like goes over our faces, like invisibly, only I can see it. And I was like, I want to use the teleprompter. And then right before we're about to go live, I'm like, I'm not going to use the teleprompter. I'm scared. And then Rachel's like, girl, we're talking about fear today. You have to step into fear. So I'm like, okay. And I did it.
I'm so proud of you. I'm
Me
so proud of
too.
you.
And it was actually really nice. And it went really fast for a second. And I was able to stop it, which was cool.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
instinctively, I scrolled and stopped it. And so it didn't catch me, but I'm
And
excited.
now how are you feeling? Your fear's done. Like you're not
Yes.
feeling fear anymore, right? Yeah.
Yes. And now I'm going to be able to use it for every single one of them. So thank you for that. Sometimes this is
Pleasure.
why we need a coach.
Yeah, there you
This
go.
is why we
This
need
is
a
what I
Rachel
do.
blog in our life.
And yeah, and it's interesting because this is what I do, right? Like when people say, well, you know, you didn't must have not had like shitty things happen to you, right? And like bad things. And I'm thinking, girl, like you have no idea. I just don't let myself get stuck,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that I haven't gotten stuck. It just means that I've had to dig a lot deeper to kind of just get to my place where I'm not letting fear control me.
Yeah, exactly. And I do feel like I'd love to kind of just jump in right away around
Yeah.
individuals who try to stay out of fear. Because I feel like the way people view life is
Hmm.
they don't want any disruption in their life whatsoever. They want
Yeah.
to just like coast and feel happy and feel like almost nothing.
Yeah. So they don't want to feel emotions.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's freaking impossible because we're not robots and we
Yeah.
all have emotions. And that's the things that there are plenty of emotions that don't feel right good. I
Yeah.
mean, but if we don't have those emotions that don't necessarily feel comfortable for us, then we can't have the emotions that we want, like love, joy, excitement, because we would just be robots.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's the thing is that if people just recognize that emotions aren't bad, they're not going to kill you, they're not going to define you. But if you don't let yourself acknowledge and label and just observe those emotions, then you can't actually work through them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So this facade that I feel is so prevalent in today's day and age, as far as, not wanting to feel calm all the time, and this like, self-care, and we have to
Yeah,
it's actually, I feel like it's doing us a huge disservice.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Because
How
think about it.
how
When you,
important is
yeah,
here? Like, how important is it to have an array of emotions?
very, because that's how we grow,
Mm,
right? You grow through like learning, right? There are many things in my life, and I think of three main like events. I mean, things that have happened, like we've all experienced loss, right? That sucks. You can't do anything about grief. Like you can't prevent people from passing and dying. But there are three things in my life that I think of like what has really empowered me and changed my life,
mm.
positively and negatively at times, right? And the three things that really come up for me is getting divorced, getting remarried, right? Getting married again, not remarried, because I realize that when I say remarried, they think like, oh, you remarried your ex. I'm like, no, no, no. I just got married again. And then doing my Ironman
Dude,
because, right. So quickly, I could tell you my Ironman story in the sense that, like, I'm terrified of sharks. Terrified is not even the right word. Like, I'm petrified. And I always wanted to do like a triathlon. And then my, husband, who's my current husband, right? My husband now, basically made a comment when we were training and we were running, like, you'll never do a triathlon, Rachel. And you say that to me, and oh my God, I'm gonna fucking prove you wrong because, like, holy shit, like, I'm gonna do it. So I went home, I registered for triathlon in Boca. I never really swam in the ocean. Like I put my feet in the ocean, but I don't go in the ocean because
wow.
because there's sharks.
There is
So,
sharks.
right? So there's sharks. So when he said, you'll never do a triathlon, and this is even before I thought about doing an Ironman, I'm like, screw you. I'm going to show you. So I went home, I bought a fat tire bike, I started training, and I had never gone into the ocean until that day. And then now, fast forward, I wanted to do an Ironman, and I did pick one that was in the intracoastal. And I won't lie, I didn't know then when I signed up that sharks actually can go in the intracoastal. I'm not really sure why I thought that they couldn't. Maybe
Okay.
because I just thought like ocean, intracoastal, they're two separate pieces. I
Okay.
didn't even think about like the channel that
Yeah.
like is wide open,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't let myself sit in the fear. I'm not gonna lie, I bought two shark bands. Okay.
What's a shark fan? I don't even know what that is.
They are these devices that have some magnetic field that they claim send out this frequency to sharks that keep them away.
Like
So I
you wear it
bought
on your
two.
wrist?
I wasn't going to take the chance. So I bought one for my wrist and one for my ankle.
Wow.
And I still have all four limbs. And I've been in the ocean. I've done, a couple of races in the ocean, triathlons, and my Ironman was in the intracoastal. Um, and I also did download the shark tracker because fear doesn't mean that you can't like use resources.
I love that.
Okay. I'm going to just choose if I happen to get on my shark tracker and see that there's a great white right off the coast of Boca Raton, Florida. My ass is not going in the water
Okay.
because that's checking my facts. Does that mean that the shark is going to come and eat me? No, but I'm just going to limit my like chances.
I love it.
Okay. With this, so I checked my facts, I looked at it, and I realized that, like, okay, there's not one great white that has been tagged. Yeah, might be other sharks in that area, but I was really concerned about the great whites, right? And as I've watched Shark Week, I realized that it's not necessarily the great whites that actually attack the people, although it is, but there are many other sharks too. So I realized that if I sat in my fear of sharks, I'm never going to do an Ironman
Wow.
because I'm never going to do a triathlon because they're not in pools.
Yeah.
They're in bodies of water.
Yeah.
And so I basically had to use all my DBT skills and a lot of my performance coaching, encouragement, and cheerleading to just radically accept that reason why I was afraid of sharks is because I was afraid of like dying. And then I just had to use a lot of cope ahead and my radical acceptance of like, if I die, I die. Like they're not going to let you do an Ironman or a triathlon in the waters that they know that there are sharks in at that moment around that perimeter.
Totally.
So I did. I ultimately did an Ironman. I done three halves, and I didn't let, and I feel really proud of myself because I'm still afraid of sharks. That fear doesn't go away. And
Okay.
I don't necessarily just go to the ocean and start swimming by myself, you know? So
Okay.
that was just an example of how I didn't let fear get in my way, if that
Oh,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Yeah, and I really like how you're saying the research part because I do feel like that is part of it. It's not about just being like, "Oh, I'm gonna jump out of a plane even in the middle of a thunderstorm." Like, we
Right.
still have to be realistic
A
about
100%.
the things that we're working on. And what a great, I guess, like, example for us to realize that any fear that we do have, we can calculate it. Can be
Absolutely.
calculated. Yeah, to
Right.
ease it or to give us some sort of control over it, which is okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Like if you are afraid of heights and you want to challenge yourself by jumping out of a plane, you're not going to challenge yourself by jumping out of a plane with a parachute that is not on your back. You're
absolutely.
going to say, hey,
Yeah,
with
uh,
a teacher, I guess, what do they call them? Jumpers with you? I don't know, because
instructor maybe.
that's something that I'm not doing. However,
Same.
um, right. But you're not going to jump out of an airplane with a parachute that you know doesn't work.
Yeah,
You're going to check and confirm that the parachute works. You know the signal. You've checked the recommendations of the school you're jumping with and the teacher.
yeah.
So those are not being like, I'm not going to act on my fear. It's like you're just being smart about like checking your facts,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know?
And what I'm really getting from this too, like, what a cool story. I think sometimes we forget that the challenges, the frustrations, the problems, the fear that we're stepping into actually creates character. It
A
actually
100%.
creates like who you are. It makes you more dynamic.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
allows you to grow, right? So like now let's go to like when I was getting divorced, right? I grew up in a family that my parents, I'm going to be 55. My parents are coming up to their 57th wedding anniversary, right? My brother, he got married much younger. He's been married for, I don't know, coming up to 28, 29, 28 years, right? I don't have all my siblings are still married, right? I didn't come from a family of divorce. So it was never one of these things that I was getting divorced or not getting divorced. It was just like, holy shit, I'm really unhappy right now. And because I was so unhappy, I wasn't really being a great mom. I was very short with my kids. I mean, I wasn't living my best life. And for the listeners who are listening, I'm not an advocate for divorce, right? So like don't come at me and be like, "Oh, Rachel, you are pro divorce." No, I'm not. I'm pro happiness.
Yeah.
I believe that there are plenty of people that can have betrayal in a divorce, that can have hurt in a divorce, and they can work through it. But you need two people, right? And in my time, at that time, it wasn't going to happen,
Yeah.
right? So and I came from relationship, a marriage where I didn't work full time. I had a great life. He provided for me. I worked one day a week. I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for the most part. I say that. And I was miserable,
Yeah.
miserable. And he was too. He was miserable too. So it's not like, and he didn't cause all my misery and I didn't cause all his. We were both miserable,
Wow.
right? And I remember going to my family and my parents and my best friend and saying, I think I just need to do this. And my kids were young. So my kids were 4 and 5 when I finally decided I'm getting divorced.
Yeah.
And I remember my family saying like, well, who's going to support you? Like, because we aren't going to support you. Like I mean, I didn't come from parents who said, here's all the money and we'll just take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. It was, and my friend says, are you sure this is what you want? Your life is going to change. You may not have the same house. I'm like, yes. If
Yeah.
it meant that I had to go get another job and build my private practice, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So I did that. I got two other jobs on top of building my private practice because remember, I had my license, so I did have that. So that would probably just be a little piece for like women if you're listening, especially like
Yeah.
women. I mean, especially like because this is what we do. It's her talk show. Like it's about and like empowering women. I believe that even if you have a partner and you are with that partner and you grow up with them and they are taking care of you, I still am a firm believer that women need to have their own identity, have your own money somehow,
Yep.
whether it's through like keeping up your license, keeping up whatever kind of job you did before. It doesn't mean you have to still work, but just maintain that,
Yeah.
right? I didn't, like I said, I worked maybe 4 hours a week. I didn't work part, let alone part time. I mean,
Yeah.
I would just say this was like my like fun money, right? But I kept my license and I knew that I would be able to do whatever I needed to do, and
Absolutely.
I had the ability to, and the jobs I took, I mean, I was a waiver support coordinator. That wasn't something that they needed my license for. They just needed a bachelor's at that time. So not giving up a lot of my own identity was really important. And I told my parents, like, I'm going to do this. So I did. I sat down, my ex-husband and I, we had a conversation, and it was a nice conversation, as crappy as the conversation it was going to be. But I didn't sit in the fear of how are you going to be able to support your kids? How are you going to be able to support? I just knew that I was going to.
Yeah.
I was going to. If I had to go work at McDonald's, if I had to go work at Starbucks, I was going to.
Yeah.
If it meant that I couldn't refinance the house that I'm living in with my kids, it's okay. I can build another home elsewhere, you know? Um, and I did. And I didn't sit in the fear. And let me tell you, it was scary. I'm not going to lie, because there was fear of judgments,
Yeah.
right? You're a therapist. How do you not make that
Ooh.
work?
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
damn, therapists are not perfect.
Yeah.
Like, and that doesn't mean that, why don't we look at it a different angle? You're a therapist, you use your skills, you didn't sit in the fear. I could have stayed in something that was very comfortable.
Yeah.
Totally. And let's just be honest. I had the best of both worlds in a lot of ways, because I didn't have well, this isn't the best, but like I hadn't, my ex-husband didn't really care what I was doing. If I wanted to go out with my girlfriends, go. If I wanted to go with my kids to a vacation with my parents and he couldn't go, I went. He supported all of those things.
Yeah.
And for my type A personality at that time, and my kids were young, that was great, right? But what I also did recognize is that it didn't foster intentional compassion, and like it didn't foster a healthy marriage. It kind of kept us separate, because I
Uh,
had my space, which I thought was great, because I could control what my kids ate. I could control when they went to bed,
wow.
you know, but it did come between like our relationship. And we did try, just so the viewers listening or listeners, like we did try. We went to couples therapy. Like it's not like I just said, oh, I just one day woke up and wanted a divorce. It
Yeah.
was, I went, there were things we tried, and 3 years later, I was like, you know what, this is not working.
Yeah.
So, and that was a lot of fear. I could have sat in the fear that I couldn't do it. What would my life look like? Many people get stuck because they don't know the outcome.
Yeah.
But that's life,
Yeah.
right? We don't know the outcome,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I know your story. Like, you didn't know your outcome,
Yeah.
and look where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah, and to go along with what Rachel's saying here, my story with my abusive ex, I sat in that for a while as far as leaving the lifestyle. We were really well off. I mean, driving a brand new, beautiful, fully loaded car, huge home in Boca Raton, huge diamond ring on my finger, modern. And I thought about that, like, dude, I'm leaving all of that. Like, is it work? And I think that's how we really know that it's not working, when like the lifestyle is so beautiful and you're still like, no. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I knew. Like the fact that I could leave the the certainty of like life and money and being taken care of and a roof over my head and still just be like, no, absolutely not. And
Yeah.
how certain we are. I totally get that. I think it's so important to talk about this. The question I want to ask you though is how long? I talk to women, my world is all women. So, I talk to women who are in amazing relationships and women who are not in amazing relationships.
Yeah.
And the the question I want to ask, and my viewers, know my story. It took me a long ass time, but there's guilt and there's shame that we sometimes have over us with staying, right? So
Yeah.
we're in this mindset of like, you didn't come from a family of divorce. You're a therapist. Like, obviously you have to stay and you have to like grit it out, even though, and that on top of everything, then that starts to create like guilt and shame around wanting to leave. And then also
Mm-hmm.
shame around not leaving because then you're not being true to yourself. It's like
Totally.
so heavy. And I always tell individuals, like, wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. And take steps towards uncomfortability. Like,
Yeah.
take steps, make a plan. I always say, this is what I always said. I was able to leave when I started saving money for a choice. That's
Yeah.
when I really started to take place. I was always like saving, like I get really mad. I'd be like, F this. And then I'd be like, I'm going to save money so I can leave this situation because it sucks. And then I kept on this roller coaster of like saving money, not saving money, saving money, not saving. There's a lot of
Yeah.
bombing, uncertainty, guilt, shame. And when I started creating, which is what Rachel was saying, like she had her thing that she was doing, and then she also had her education that she was leaning on. When I started leaning towards, I'm just going to work on this so I have a choice.
Yep. And
That's
that's exactly what I did too.
that's when it took off. It wasn't to leave, like, oh, I'm going to
Right.
leave. It was just like, no, because if I want to leave, I want to just be able to leave.
Yeah.
And just made it clear like that. So I want to hear from you. How long did it take you? What were the feelings that you had to work out before you
Yeah.
actually said, I want a divorce? So that women realize that this is all normal. It's not like you just wake up one day and say, I'm getting a
Right.
divorce. That's it.
Yeah.
There's some things
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share a little more
It,
info
it
about
it definitely, so it took me about 3 years.
that.
Like
Okay.
from when I went, so him and I went back to there. We went to couples therapy at one point, and I remember like telling the therapist certain things about like what I was feeling and like, like sexually and things like that. And he had said something, and I just remember like shutting down at that point. And I'm like, okay, my kids were one. I had a 1 year old at that time and two and a half because they were 3 years apart, 18 months apart, 18 months apart. And I just literally remember shutting down emotionally and saying, okay, you know what? I'm just going to stay. Because remember, I'm at that point when my kids were even that young, I think I might have been working like 1 or 2 hours a week.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
And during that time, I then got trained as a waiver support coordinator because it allowed me to have flexibility where I could potentially bring my kids with me because it was like home visits, working with like people who had like Down syndrome, spina bifida. So like people who had developmental disabilities. So it was very different than like the therapeutic clinical route.
Okay.
It was more like home services,
Okay.
getting them like, occupational physical therapy. So it was different. So that's why I felt comfortable, especially if the clients were okay with me bringing my kid, which they of course adored, right? It was one
Absolutely.
of my favorite jobs
Yeah.
because it gave me flexibility. It gave me freedom to bring my kids. And then I did have my sister. So I will say I was very fortunate that I had my sister who was able to watch my kids the first year of their life on a Monday full day. So I would kind of like jam pack that day. And
Yeah.
then my mom stepped in like after my sister had to go get a job and things like that. So I was very fortunate. So it's not like I just did this on my own. So people who may be listening, if you don't have family, and family doesn't need to be just blood, like family could be friends. So
Totally.
try to create a community
Love that.
that like your village with other parents, other moms that may be in the same situation that may just need some support, but maybe don't have the financial like ability to pay for somebody, and maybe you guys switch off your kids,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and so those 3 years I delved into deep my kids. Like I was on committees at their schools, I did fundraisers, right? Because I had the time.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where my kids were getting a little older and they were starting to see us. And I realized that like they were not seeing even love. Like there was not a lot of hate. Like there wasn't screaming and there wasn't like nastiness in the home.
Yeah.
It just was, there wasn't good connection.
Got
And it
it.
was like we were just living as roommates. And my kids, and I have two boys, and I wanted my boys to see that, like, this isn't what a good marriage looks like,
Got
right?
it.
Like, as my parents still are married, and even though they might be short-tempered with each other at times, I always saw love. Like, whether it be my dad brought my mom flowers or he'd give her a kiss hello in the morning, like, there was none of that
Got it.
in our relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and so finally, like, I just got to a point where I was like, woke up one day and I really started to think about it. And I started thinking about like some things that would happen. I think it was when I was doing the New York City Marathon and I had come back from the race that weekend. And by the way, which is also like always fell on my birthday weekend. Okay. And it was like the second time I did the New York City Marathon. And um, I came back to my phone and there were like 50 text messages, calls from friends, family, colleagues. We're so proud, and nothing from my husband, my ex-husband at the time, who had my kids. Like a simple, just like make your kids like leave a voicemail. Mom, you did nothing. And I remember saying, I'm so disappointed. And his response at that time was like, well, I was watching the kids. Like I had the kids and I'm thinking, no, I'm done. It goes back to that intentional effort,
Absolutely.
right? And
Yeah.
then I just, I spoke to him. Um,
That almost feels like intentionally not doing it.
yeah, you could look at it
'Cause
that
it's such a
way.
big thing. It's such a big thing. It's almost like, and I don't know.
Yeah,
It almost feels like you would almost intentionally have
yeah,
to not do that.
yeah. I just think that we might, and I look at it, I could see that and I can understand why that I didn't view it that way because I think we were so far apart
Got it.
already at that moment that the thought of
It wouldn't even
reaching out
occur. Wouldn't have even
didn't
occurred.
even occur.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was very overwhelming for him because let's be honest, I did pretty much everything at that time up
Yeah.
until that point for the kids. I got them up, I got them dressed, I made their lunches, I fed them, I got them. It's not like he didn't do all things. I mean, he was providing financial support for me. So he did have things and he did do, things for the kids, but he wasn't one that just took the kids out at that young age and just like, so for him to have the boys for the whole, I think it was like 5 days I was gone,
Got it.
right? Probably was a lot for him and he,
Got
he might have been overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the moment that I realized that, you know what, like we're just living a space and I didn't even think about the what ifs.
Yeah.
And that's important because fear and anxiety kind of go together and fear and anxiety let people believe that you shouldn't do something that you're afraid of, right? Like, so getting divorced, I could have been like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to refinance this house? What is it going to look like?
Yeah.
What am I going to get in the divorce? I'm going to tell you that I was very fortunate that my ex and I, to this day, we have a very good relationship. It's not common. Okay.
Yeah.
So I filed February 12th, 6 weeks later, April 1st.
Wow.
So maybe it's because back then, like, I mean, you didn't have a lot of stuff. So it's not like we had like, War of the Roses kind of things. You know, I didn't sit with who's going to judge me? Are my parents going to be disappointed? I couldn't even think about that
Yeah.
because then that would have kept me there. That's why I stayed for 3 years. Not
Yeah.
going to lie. That's exactly why,
Yeah.
you know, nobody's getting divorced. My kids are so young. What do I want them? And then it led me to meeting my husband now,
Yeah.
right? And that was about, I don't know, 4 years. I got married again, which again, I had just gotten the house. I refinanced the house on my own because it meant I was going to work 3 jobs. I was going to get this house from my ex-husband. Like I'm going to, you know, get it. He got me child support. I didn't get alimony for very long, which was okay
Yeah.
because we were married like just a little over 9 years. So in the state of Florida, like that was not permanent alimony. And he was very generous financially to me for the first 2 years because he wanted to make sure I could refinance the house.
Right.
So, and I do think that that is also because like I went into it, I wasn't looking to bankrupt him either.
Yeah.
And if the piece I could say to moms who are getting divorced, you might have been extremely hurt by your partner. And I get that. And I understand that. And I hear that. However, being effective rather than acting on your anger is going to be so much more important,
Yeah.
right? So if you keep wanting to get more and more and more financials from them, you're just dragging something out, and it's actually getting in the way of you being happy,
Absolutely.
you know? And so you have to go back to like, what's my happiness is priceless.
Yeah.
There was no amount of money that was going to keep me staying in that relationship,
Yeah.
And there were times when I was dating my husband my current husband, Sean, and dating him and thinking like, oh my God, I'm so afraid, because there might have been times where like financially I might have been a little stressed, and that would be the push the button of like, we should get married. And then I'm like, no, Rachel, that's your just emotion mind talking. It's all fear. You've got this, because my job didn't provide a consistent income. It's the ebb and flows of clients in and out.
Yeah.
And so if I would have sat on that fear of even getting married again, like what would happen? Am I going to get divorced again? No, I couldn't sit with that fear,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Totally get all of that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to go back to the shark story.
Yeah.
And I feel as if, and I might be wrong, so that's why I'm asking, the action you took for filing for divorce, or the divorce rate
Hmm.
for years, and then the action you took with the sharks seems like it happened right away. You're just like, you said I can't do an Iron or a triathlon, and
Right.
you signed up the next day. What
Right.
was what was
So
yeah.
that was pure emotion mind. That was just
Yeah.
pure emotion mind, like
Yeah.
where I wasn't even afraid of the fear because I was going to prove him wrong. Like
Uh-huh.
I was, like that was my personality. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, F
So how
you,
long did you do it, like, within the week?
No,
Month?
oh, what I signed up. So that
Sign
was
up.
like in January, maybe. And I went and I signed up that next day for a race that was in April. No, I hadn't even swam. Like at that moment, like I wasn't going to drown. Like I knew how to swim,
Yeah.
but when you swim for a triathlon, it's so different than just swimming for enjoyment,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not doing laps, like you're swimming so that you're treading water. You're not going to drown. Like
Yeah.
many people don't spend a lot of time in the deep end of a pool when they're
Yeah.
hanging out with their friends.
No. Yeah.
And if they are, they're usually on a flotation device. Right?
Absolutely.
You're not like, so I had to
Floating.
actually teach myself how to swim, where I
Wow.
had to learn how to breathe, which was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
So
that day,
I think
yeah,
that what's important for our ladies to know here is fear, right? Fear, and the amount of time it takes us to take action is different. So
100%.
just because you might take a little longer to step into fear with one situation does not mean that you have to take that much time for every single situation.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
there's going to be times where things just pull you in, and don't let how you did things the last time stop
Absolutely.
you from making immediate decisions to step into fear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that could be it sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm the type of person that likes to take my time. Or you don't have to take that much time for all of
Right. And a lot of people think that they define themselves as like I'm not a nature person. I'm not a plant person. Like
it.
I would just say I'm not a plant person, but then you know what? I finally said one day, stop saying that. Like,
Yeah.
how do you know? Like, because you killed one plant in your life, try another one. And
Yes.
guess what? I have propagated so many freaking plants and I've kept them alive.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Because I didn't just associate that stigma that I have defined myself as,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm not capable. Like those are just thoughts that we teach ourselves and we repeat. And whether they're thoughts that came from just our own fear,
Yeah.
which that's what will happen, or thoughts that, words that people have used, especially like, like if you're in an abusive relationship, you might hear that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to love you like I do.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to take care of you. Well, you know what? I'm going to freaking love myself
I love that.
and I'm going to take care of myself and my kids. And I did.
Yeah. I love
And to
that.
this day, like still have my job, I still work, I have my own bank account, he has his. He's very generous to us. We go on trips together. We don't have joint bank accounts at all.
Yeah.
I have certain bills I pay for, he has certain bills he pays for, but we are a team and we are intentionally, working. And it was not easy. Let me just say that. Like, it's not like, I know it sounds like I'm just like, oh, I just fell into this beautiful relationship. My husband is a true gem, and we blended our families. And holy shit, that was one of the fucking hardest things I've ever done.
Wow,
He
wow,
he had teenage boys. I had little kids that I can control.
wow.
So for all you listeners out there, like, it can work. It goes back to that intention. And him and I intentionally work on our relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I just heard, I was just listening to something earlier. I don't know if I'm going to be able to repeat it exactly, but it was something to the effect of you don't want something around like you don't want it's not about finding the right person. It's about finding the person that like chooses you. Like,
Yep.
because there is no, he said something to the effect of like, there is no such thing as the right person. What it is two people coming together that continuously just choose each other.
Correct. And
That's
choose
all.
to work and grow.
Yeah.
And both of us have. I mean, we basically made that agreement that what did you do in your previous relationship that led you to the place that you were that ultimately led to the divorce, right?
Yeah.
I know what I did. He knows what he did. We work on that.
Got it.
And we both have grown. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements or fights or like, but my God, I'm so proud of both of us. I mean, it's going to be 12 years this June that we've been married. And it's, we have a beautiful relationship and we have a beautiful family. And it's not perfect. And we all have our own moods.
Yeah.
And like, I know that like he's my person because we both choose each other.
I love
And if
that.
he doesn't feel like I'm choosing him, he tells me,
Yeah.
and vice
Great.
versa.
That's great. As we wrap up here, I'd love to dig a little deeper into community. I really like the way you
Yeah.
said that. That you said that. That is my whole schnig is community. I didn't have community when I was in the darkest of darks of my life, and really just recognize now how much different my life would have been if I would have had anyone who was supporting me at that time.
Right.
And I am a huge advocate of making sure we have people around us that are helping us through life, through business, through relationships.
Hmm.
You know, whether you have a coach or whether you have a community or friends or whatever it is, but there needs to be people around you who are in the same arena, right? So if
Yep.
you're married, you got to have married friends. If you're running a business, you got to have, entrepreneurs in your life. If
Yep.
you're a dancer, right, you got to have dancers in your life. Like
Yep.
what are the things that you're doing in your life, and make sure that you have community around that. So I'd love for you to, as we're kind of wrapping up here, how
Yeah.
has community helped you? What is your thoughts on that as far as your life, your personal life and your business life?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because they're very different. And they're two things that my one in business, I mean, because of you, I'm not going to lie. So kudos to you because of what you have created.
Thank you.
I have always viewed myself as just like a person in private practice that like solo, right? I had colleagues that we've shared office space with, but never like a community. And when I joined the H Club and that community, I met so many other women who have literally, and they are light years ahead of me, but I don't ever feel that they've ever made it like that. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
They want as much growth and great things for all the women as they do for themselves, which many women don't have because we're taught like you should be jealous of people or you should envy what they have. No, girl, like there's so many people around that can go around and help other people.
yeah,
So for my business side, I have delved in and I've invested in myself by being with other women. And that's hard for many people because they wait at home for people to come to them
yeah,
and they're uncomfortable. Maybe they're afraid of being rejected. Maybe they feel like they don't know what they're doing. Girl, I mean, you can attest to this. I had no idea what I was doing from a business wise until I joined H Club.
yeah,
And, now I feel like I'm on this path.
yeah.
And I'm 50, almost 55, and I've been in private practice for almost 28 years.
Wow.
It's never too late to start.
Yep.
I'm kind of on the back end where I'm thinking like maybe I should be retired in a few years. But that doesn't mean that right now I still can't build the biggest and the best thing that I want for myself,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
And in terms of with my friendships and my family, so that I'm still working on because I think COVID really did a big disservice and impact on that because we all, including myself, almost got so comfortable with like this whole Zoom and things like that.
Totally.
So what I've intentionally tried to do is when I see that it's their birthday and they're actually a friend of mine, like the friend that I consider a friend, and I'm not saying like I share my, but somebody that I want, that I do consider a friend, like it's just not like, oh, I know you through somebody who's somebody, but I never really met you in person and
Yeah.
we're still friends on Facebook. I will send, and if I find out that it's their birthday, I will intentionally text them aside. Like I don't just make a Facebook post. I will intentionally send a text, a private text to them on their cell phone to letting them know, I hope you have the best birthday, or, um, and I try to reach out because I think that, and I try to make a time, even if it's once a month,
Yeah.
where I just do a face to face.
Yeah.
And I make a point to see my family. I'm very close to my family.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So though, and they're intentional. And many of my friends don't reach out to me. And if you sit in that space of, well, they don't reach out to me, then guess what? Nobody's going to reach out. And maybe they're not reaching out for whatever reason. But
Yep.
like just because they're not reaching out doesn't mean I can't reach out,
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
know?
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that we have to set an intent. If you are in a period of, for those of you listening live or on the replay, if you are in an area where you're sitting around and you're listening to Rachel and you're like, you know what, I actually don't really have a friend or a couple of friends I've completely isolated myself. Uh, you have to get out there and you have to intentionally go find a friend.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I have learned recently, probably just within the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years, is, I came from a religious community, school, all these things. And a lot of times we're forced in the groups, right? We're forced in the friendship
Yeah.
that we're in. And, over just the last few years, I've really been intentional around like, I can actually just pick my friends.
Absolutely.
Like if I like somebody and I like their vibe and I like their optimism and I like the way they do life and I can actually just intentionally reach out to that person and create
Yep.
a friendship.
Absolutely.
And I have done that. I have done that with complete strangers, just intentionally been like, you're going to be my friend.
Right.
And I've intentionally fostered friendships with individuals out of nothing, out of thin
Absolutely.
air. And I
Right.
think it's important for us to know that, but we have to show up as a good friend before they, right, can get comfortable,
Right.
because they don't know, unless
Right.
you go up to me, you're like, do you want to be my friend? Do you
Right.
want
Which is
to know?
uncomfortable and awkward. But at
Yeah,
the end
but
of the day, like you didn't let your fear stop
yeah,
you though from reaching out. And that's the
absolutely.
piece, right? Like I say to people, like whether you're my client, right? As a whether I'm coaching you or you're my client as a therapy or even a friend, right? I had a friend who many years ago was like, I just really want to start dating. And I'm like, so let's talk about it. Like, what are you doing? Like, well, nothing. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know where to, I'm like, well, then how does Prince Charming know where the hell you live? Like,
Yeah,
he's not coming to knock on your damn door if you
yeah,
don't get out there. And
yes,
it's the same with friendships. Many people sit in the fear of being rejected, of
yeah,
being judged. You
yeah,
know what? If they judge you, they're going to show you.
yeah,
And then you know that that's not your friend.
yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't move on.
Yeah. And
Just,
also just the
yeah,
fear of like, I don't know if I want this person to be my friend because I don't, because what if they wind up being a shitty friend? Well,
right,
that's the whole process of finding the friendship, is like, just
correct.
like dating. Like you'll know that you don't want to be their boyfriend. There's a breakup, right? Like same thing with friendships. Like you're in a friendship, you
Yep,
cultivate a friendship just like you would a partner. And at any point, if you decide, hey, this isn't my person, then they're not your person
right.
anymore.
But
Nothing
that's
happens.
right. But that goes back to the fear. You
Yeah,
can't sit in the fear of,
totally.
will I not be able to say no? Will I not be able to get out? Will they hurt me? You don't freaking know.
Yeah,
Like, just give it a try.
yeah,
Like, yeah, it would suck, but if you've been hurt before, you can get through it.
yeah. Yeah, I was just talking just recently to kind of wrap up here in my mastermind about stepping into fear, doing things, taking yourself to the next level. And I have this saying that I say to myself probably every single day. And the saying is, will I die? So
Correct.
whenever I'm about to step into something that's like super scary, or oh, I'm unsure, I don't know if this is going to work. Oh my God, all the things. And then I just come back to myself and I say, will I die if I try? And the answer is always no.
No, correct.
Literally always no. And
Correct.
when you're in that mindset of like, nothing's going to happen, like nothing that catastrophic is going to happen, it makes things a lot easier to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
So
use that also
closing
always.
thoughts as we wrap up.
I love that. I mean, I think that's great. I love that. I mean, I ask my clients that, but did you die?
Yeah.
Did you die? No, because you're still here,
Yeah.
right? So will I die? Like, yeah, like if you again jump out of a plane without a parachute, you will die. But
Yeah.
that's not the will I die kind of thing that we're talking about. We're talking
Absolutely.
about like emotions. So the closing thoughts is that just don't let fear control you.
Yeah.
And just because you experience fear or something's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad or wrong,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? And,
Absolutely.
and so
Yeah.
you're only going to learn by trial and error.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. For those of us listening live, thank you so much for being here. Listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at. Rachel, for those listening here visually
Yeah.
and also on the audio, they can't see us.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Website and social media.
Website is rachelblogg.com. Social media is at rachelblogg LCSW, Rachel W blog LCSW. If you just put in Rachel blog LCSW, you'll find me pretty much anywhere.
I love it.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook,
Beautiful. I love it.
all and my podcasts, you know.
Yes, I love it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, it was wonderful having you here. Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you
the
for having
thank
me.
you for sharing so much of your story. We appreciate that. We love
Pleasure.
stories on this podcast.
Yes.
All right,
Love
ladies
it.
and the gentlemen that pop in here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. That brings us to the end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Let's give Rachel some love for sharing her wisdom and inspiring us all. To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us into the very end here. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation Global, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way. And the links are in the description below. As always,